fourth time I got pregnant, I practically skipped to Ethan's office, waving the ultrasound like a winning lottery ticket. But before I could even knock, I heard his voice inside, a voice I knew way too well. "Are you sure this birth control stuff is safe?" I promised Chloe I wouldn't touch Sarah. And if she gets knocked up, that little firecracker will go ballistic. Look, all meds have side effects, right? But I still don't understand why you're doing this. Sarah's your wife, man. Why the obsession with your assistant? You've made her get abortions 3 times already. You keep this up and she might never be able to have kids. At least show some respect to your wife. Ethan's voice hardened as he stuffed the pills into his bag. You wouldn't get it. Loving someone doesn't need a reason. So, everything I thought we had, the happily ever after, was just a carefully constructed lie. Betrayal and deception were the real foundation of our marriage. Since he wouldn't say it, I'd make the choice for him. Inside his office, Ethan was glued to his phone, scrolling through high-end jewelry websites, a goofy grin plastered on his face. What do you think of this one? Chloe's been drooling over it forever. She's got that porcelain skin, so it would look amazing on her. On the other end, his buddy Mike, a gynecologist, let out a long sigh. Dude, for that price, it better look good. You've been married to Sarah for 5 years, but can't even give her a simple gift. Why don't you get this for her? Ethan's face darkened, his voice sharp. You know she's got zero style. What am I gonna buy her? She'd just say I'm wasting money. Chloe's different. She's young and that girl loves to pamper herself. Mike was about to lose it. Ethan, wake up. Sarah's your wife of 5 years. She sacrificed 3 kids for you and you can't even send her some jewelry? This shit's gonna ruin her body if she keeps it up. You'll regret this when you actually want kids. Ethan waved his hand dismissively. No regrets here. I promised Chloe she'd be the only one to bear my child. As for Sarah, I'm not gonna divorce her. She gets half of everything I earn, so she's compensated. Mike slammed his hand on the desk, face red with fury. I've watched you build this company from the ground up. Sarah busted her ass to help you. Now she's nothing more than an employee to you. You're disrespecting her man. As your friend, I'm warning you. If she finds out, you're screwed. You'll get what you deserve. With that, Mike stormed out of the office. I dove into the supply closet next door, desperate to hide. My heart was pounding out of my chest. 5 years married, 7 years dating. I'd worked my tail off to help Ethan build his empire, spending endless nights hustling for him. At just 30 years old, I felt like I was aging prematurely. I couldn't afford to buy expensive skincare or makeup. I was so worried about saving him money, and when he finally started earning money, I was the happiest. But now it was clear all my sacrifices were nothing but a punchline. Mike said that the reason for those abortions was too much drinking and partying for my end. I had spent months beating myself up, feeling guilty as hell, taking medicine in hopes of having a healthy body. But now I was nothing more than an obstacle in his path to true love. He didn't want to divorce me because of financial reasons, so I'd do it myself. Leaving the office, I sit on the street getting pummeled by the cold wind. I waited for 5 hours. Finally, when the last light flickered out, Ethan emerged. He looked down and said something to Chloe, turning to come my way. He pulled me into a hug, trying to act concerned. How long have you been here? Why didn't you come in? It's nothing. I was just going to bring you dinner, but your secretary told me you ate. Your health isn't the best. Don't bother with this again, okay? I'd feel terrible if you wore yourself out. Oh, Mike stopped by to give you some medicine. You were about to run out, weren't you? I took the pills he handed me, shoving them into my purse without a word. His winter hug felt like a warm blanket. But this time, I couldn't feel anything. The moment we got home, he was all over me, pushing me onto the couch. I held my hands against his chest, stopping his advance. A flash of annoyance crossed his face, but he kept his cool. What's wrong? Isn't this what you wanted? To have a baby? I don't feel well today. Maybe next time. He wanted nothing to do with me. Ethan stormed off to the bathroom to wash up. His phone buzzed on the table. Chloe's sweet voice made my stomach churn. I used Chloe's birthday to unlock the code. It immediately jumped to another system. It only consisted of one app, and the only contact in that app was someone called Spicy Kitty. The profile picture was Chloe dressed as Catwoman. Her posts were both of them being happy together, their relationship going strong. The back-and-forth conversation they had made me sick to my stomach. Hey, Ethan, want to meet at the rooftop? Sure, darling. Ethan, what about your car? I've never done that before. Just outside your apartment. You're not scared of being caught? Guess I'll be a hero for you then. Ethan, I want to be on the project. Sure, just show me what you're working with. I swiped on the new contract that came with the new signing. Every single contact had Chloe's name on it. He bought her fancy jewelry to make her happy. Everything was under the company's name to gift Chloe. His subtle love was loud and silent at the same time. I looked at the jewelry pieces that he had bought. They were just gifts from auctions. He said they were meant for me. My thoughtfulness saving him money had turned into a sword, piercing my heart. I chuckled, feeling bad for myself. I connected with a lawyer to talk about the financial aspect of the divorce. I wouldn't let him get away with anything. I couldn't sleep all night. The sun rose, and I washed myself up. My phone rang. Ethan's confused voice was soon behind that. "Sarah, what did you sign up for?" I pushed my phone against my chest and explained. "Oh, just some beauty treatments. You didn't want me to go? Don't you have a meeting today? Go ahead. I'm fine." He didn't think about it, hugging me and whispering into my ears, "You are the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to me." I nodded my head and smiled. "As a reward, I'm going to get you a gift today. What do you think about that?" "Sure, I'll be here waiting." As soon as Ethan left, a driver came with a gift. He knew that I loved this specific hotel and brought me breakfast for the past 5 years. I thought he had loved me. He just didn't want the effort. How could he not learn how to cook? I tossed the breakfast into the trash and went out. This hoax would soon come to an end. As I was discussing everything with the lawyer, he asked me about the bank account. It would be best if it took 2 days. I didn't ask for anything else and gave him the information on Ethan buying jewelry for Chloe. I made plans with him for the next day. The moment I left, Ethan's company was filming. He sprayed champagne as he shielded Chloe from the spray. I knew the suit. It was my anniversary gift. I ended up returning the new gift I had bought for him. I rushed over to the company. Ethan smiled and looked over to Chloe. The employees were jealous and excited at the same time. "I can't believe that the shares are worth a lot. Chloe can easily become the new boss." "Don't say that. Ethan is already married. You didn't know that." "Come on, you know how Ethan carries Chloe around to parties? Any man can see how attractive she is. She's the new boss." I clapped and laughed. Ethan was shocked to see me. "What are you doing here?" "I'm just giving everyone bonuses. You're not thinking anything else." Chloe came with a transfer contract in hand. "Yes, Sarah, Ethan is a great boss. He pays for my apartment and things." I didn't want to talk back. I just looked at Ethan. "It's normal. Don't be stressed. I didn't think much of it. What you give is what you give. Not everyone is so lucky. You can go back to doing what you're doing." Ethan said that I seemed angry and came to explain. He felt that pleasing Chloe could take away the stress. "Don't worry. I didn't think anything of it. Whatever you want to do." He nodded. He walked me out of the company. He told me that I should go to this banquet tonight. I just smiled. He had already done so much. I didn't know that Chloe would make the first move. 2 hours later, I was packing my bags. Ethan called, yelling at me. "Sarah, are you texting my employers? What's going on? I'm the CEO. Don't I have the right to do that? You said that you understood me, but this is what you meant?" I felt helpless and closed my eyes. It's just $10 million. She can be the way she is, and you can just ignore her. If that's how she feels, why bother calling? As soon as I hung up, Ethan started texting. "Sarah, apologize to Chloe. Everyone in the company is watching. Apologize, you're hurting me." I didn't reply, and deleted his number. He drove to pick me up. I was wearing a gown. Ethan looked disgusted. "Why are you wearing this?" Chloe came down and giggled. "Sorry, Ethan. I didn't send Sarah the text. I just smirked. You always look younger than me, with a new secretary like that. I don't even need to show my face." Ethan pushed back. Chloe didn't say anything, as I just hopped into the back. Chloe went on and on, talking about how Ethan has paid her these past 5 years. Ethan looked sad as I just listened to them. We got to the hotel. The waiters gave her all the attention, calling her Mrs. Chloe. Ethan pulled me off into the hallway. He was nervous. "Chloe's my employee, that's it. It's our anniversary, don't be mad." I laughed at his face. "I'm not mad, don't worry." "Don't. You can go ahead. I have to take this call." He nodded. I called the lawyer, telling him to get the job done. After 30 minutes, I walked into the room. Ethan was being surrounded by people. I was soon at the table. Chloe walked to the table with a smile. "I'm so sorry, Sarah, but you're not going to get any younger." She winked. Everyone started muttering. I nodded my head and sat down. Chloe came and held a drink. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. You work and go home, it's hard. You should pamper yourself." She looked at my gown. "I'm not drinking. I'm on medication." Ethan frowned. "You can't drink, are you kidding me? Stop." Chloe poured me a glass and shoved it into my hands. I said that I wasn't. Chloe held the cup to me. I flicked it. The drink sprayed her dress. The glass shattered by her feet. Ethan was angry. He threw the cup on the table. "You're testing me. Do you want me to embarrass you?" "Chloe has apologized." "What do you want?" Chloe cried in the corner. "Did she apologize? What's wrong with you?" Ethan was hurt and angry. "Say sorry now. You better think about it. I can ruin you. You won't get a penny." I nodded my head. "Sure, let's get divorced." Ethan was shocked. I grabbed my coat and walked out and passed out. I was in the hospital. When I woke up, the sterile white walls of the hospital seemed to close in on me. My body ached, but it was nothing compared to the weight crushing my chest. Everything that had happened replayed in my mind like a cruel joke. Ethan's betrayal, Chloe's smug face, the lies, the deceit, every single sacrifice I had made had been for nothing. I should have seen it sooner. I should have left sooner. The door creaked open, and I turned my head slowly, expecting a nurse. But no, of course not. It was Ethan. His hair was slightly disheveled, his suit slightly wrinkled. He actually looked worried. For a moment, I wondered if he was about to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But I knew better. "Sarah," he said, his voice soft. "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. What was the point? He wasn't here because he cared. He was here because he was losing control over me. "You fainted," he continued, stepping closer. "The doctor said you were dehydrated and exhausted. You scared me." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Did I?" My voice was hoarse, weak, but my words carried all the bitterness I felt. Ethan hesitated, then reached for my hand. I pulled away. He exhaled sharply, irritation flashing across his face. "You need to stop this," he said, his tone now laced with frustration. "Stop what?" I asked, tilting my head. "Stop uncovering the truth? Stop making things difficult for you?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "I didn't mean for things to turn out like this." I scoffed. "No, you just meant to keep me in the dark while you built a life with Chloe behind my back. You meant to use me. Discard me when I was no longer convenient. That's what you meant, isn't it?" He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "Sarah, listen. The company, the board, everyone is watching. If we handle this poorly, it could be bad for both of us." I narrowed my eyes. "You mean bad for you?" His lips pressed into a thin line. "Just don't do anything rash." It was almost laughable how he still thought he could manipulate me. I was done being his puppet. I sat up, ignoring the pounding in my head. "I've already spoken to my lawyer," I said, watching his expression darken. "The divorce papers are almost ready. You'll be hearing from them soon." For a second, Ethan's mask slipped and I saw real panic in his eyes. "Sarah, don't do this." I smiled, cold and unforgiving. "I already have." The door opened again, and to my utter lack of surprise, Chloe stepped inside, her heels clicking against the tile floor. She was dressed impeccably, as always, her makeup flawless. She looked at me with faux sympathy. "Oh, Sarah," she said, clasping her hands together. "You had us so worried." I rolled my eyes. "Spare me, Chloe. I know exactly what you are." Her eyes glimmered with amusement. "And what's that?" I tilted my head. "A leech, a parasite, a woman who can only thrive off of another's misery." Chloe pouted. "That's not fair. Ethan and I held up a hand. "Don't care." Then I turned to Ethan. "Get out, both of you." Ethan exhaled sharply but didn't argue. Chloe, however, smirked as she looped her arm through his. "Well," she said, "it's a shame, really. But I suppose it's for the best. You'll never be able to keep up with Ethan anyway. You don't have the flair." I clenched my jaw but didn't take the bait. Instead, I smiled. "Oh, don't worry about me. I'm stronger than you think." Ethan studied me for a moment longer, then, without another word, turned and walked out. Chloe followed, giving me a wink before disappearing behind the door. The moment they were gone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I was done with them. I was done being a pawn in Ethan's game. But I knew this wasn't over. Ethan wouldn't let me go that easily. And I was ready for whatever came next. The next morning, I checked out of the hospital against the doctor's advice. I didn't have time to be weak. Ethan would fight this divorce with everything he had, and I needed to be prepared. The moment I stepped outside, the cold morning air bit into my skin, but I welcomed it. It reminded me that I was still here, still standing. A sleek black car was parked by the entrance. And as I approached, the driver stepped out, opening the door. "Mrs. Sarah, your lawyer sent me." I nodded, sliding inside. The leather seats were cold, but I barely noticed. My mind was already racing through the next steps. We arrived at the law firm, and my lawyer, Mr. Reed, was waiting for me with a thick folder in hand. He gestured toward the conference room. "You were right," he said as we sat. "Ethan's financials are a mess." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Reed opened the folder, revealing pages upon pages of transactions. He's been moving money around, transferring assets, hiding funds in shell companies. It looks like he's been preparing for this for a while. I clenched my fists. Of course he had been. Ethan always played the long game. "We need to act fast," Reed continued. "If we wait too long, he'll have everything hidden away, and you'll be left with nothing." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "Then let's hit him where it hurts." Reed nodded. "We'll file for an emergency injunction to freeze his assets. That way, he can't touch anything until the divorce is settled." I smirked. "Perfect. And what about the evidence I sent you? The purchases, the company funds used for Chloe?" Reed's expression darkened. "Oh, that's going to be a problem for him. If the board finds out he's been funneling company money into personal gifts and luxuries, they'll tear him apart." I tapped my fingers against the table. "Then let's make sure they do." That night, Ethan called me. I let it ring twice before answering. "Sarah, what the hell did you do?" His voice was sharp, furious. I smirked. "Good evening to you too, Ethan. Don't play games with me. My accounts are frozen. Do you have any idea what kind of mess you've made?" "Oh, I think I do." He let out a harsh breath. "I told you we could handle this quietly. Why are you making this difficult?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "Difficult? Ethan, you spent years treating me like a disposable asset. Now that I'm fighting back, suddenly it's difficult?" His silence was answer enough. "I'll make this easy for you," I continued. "You sign the divorce papers, you walk away with whatever's left. Keep fighting, and I'll make sure you lose everything." Ethan's voice was low, dangerous. "You think you're the only one who can play dirty?" I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "Try me." I hung up before he could say another word. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was war. The days that followed were a whirlwind of chaos. Ethan fought back with everything he had, attempting to unfreeze his assets, pulling strings within the company to block my claims, even trying to manipulate the media to paint me as the vengeful wife out for his fortune. But I was ready for all of it. Every move he made, I countered with precision. Every lie he spun, I exposed. The board of directors caught wind of his embezzlement, and soon, whispers of an internal investigation began spreading through the company halls. Chloe, of course, stayed glued to his side, playing the perfect, concerned mistress. But cracks were forming. Ethan was unraveling under the pressure, snapping at his employees, making reckless decisions, drinking more. He wasn't used to losing, and now, with everything on the line, he was starting to self-destruct. I kept my distance, watching it all unfold like a well-orchestrated performance. Until the night, everything shattered. It was close to midnight when I got the call. "Mrs. Sarah." The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but urgent. "You need to come to the company's private suite immediately. It's about Ethan." I hesitated. Was this another trick? A setup? But something in the man's voice told me this wasn't a game. I arrived at the high-rise suite within 30 minutes. The moment I stepped in, I knew something was wrong. The place reeked of alcohol, and the lights were dim, casting eerie shadows across the expensive furniture. My heart pounded as I stepped further inside. Then I saw them. Ethan was slumped on the couch, his shirt unbuttoned, his face pale. A shattered glass lay at his feet, dark liquid staining the carpet. Chloe was next to him, frantic, her hands shaking as she tried to shake him awake. "He's not responding," she cried, turning to me with wild, desperate eyes. I don't know what happened." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "What did you do?" "Nothing!" she shrieked, tears streaming down her face. "We were drinking, celebrating. I don't know, he just collapsed." I stepped closer, my pulse pounding in my ears. Ethan's breathing was shallow, his lips slightly blue. There was a bottle of whiskey on the table, nearly empty. But next to it was something else. A small pill bottle, its cap missing. White pills scattered across the glass surface. Something clicked in my mind. "Did he take these?" I demanded, grabbing the bottle. Chloe stared at me, panic flashing in her eyes. I don't know. Maybe? He was angry, drinking a lot. He kept talking about you, about how you ruined everything. My stomach twisted. I reached for my phone, dialing emergency services, but before I could press call, Ethan's body jolted. His eyes flickered open for the briefest moment, landing on me. His lips parted, as if trying to say something, but only a weak breath escaped. And then, his body went completely still. I felt the shift in the air before I fully registered what had happened. Chloe gasped, covering her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. "Ethan?" she whimpered, nudging his shoulder. "Ethan, wake up!" Nothing. A hollow silence filled the room, pressing down on my chest. Ethan was dead.